Curiously, this idea of respecting days of uncertainty was not exclusive to the Aztecs. Many pre-Columbian cultures recognized that there were times when it was better to stay still. Instead of viewing time as a straight line, they saw it as something alive, with moods, wills, and cycles. Time could smile, but it could also turn its face, and on those days, it was better not to provoke it. And here's a little-known curiosity. Some smaller villages used mnemontemy not only for rest, but also to share dreams. That's right. People would wake up and tell each other what they had dreamed, believing that these accounts formed a kind of map of the collective future. It was the community's oniric news. If everyone dreamed of water, something would come from the river. If they dreamed of fire, it was good to reinforce the roofs. You settle onto one of the cushions, feeling the warmth of the cocoa spread inside you. Outside, the sky slowly begins to darken, shadows stretching lazily, as if even the light were respecting the sacred day of pause. You think about what it would be like to apply this today. Imagine 5 calendar days when no one could work. No emails, no bills, no just one more little meeting. They would be sacred days where the only obligation was to slow down. Maybe the world would become lighter, or maybe people would go crazy, hard to say. But you can now see the wisdom hidden within it. The old man returns, sits beside you and tells you one last thing before dozing off. They say that on these days, time walks among us, but if you try to look directly at it, it disappears. You smile. The idea that time has legs is amusing and a little frightening, but at that moment it makes perfect sense. The temple darkens, you lie down. The beats of your heart align with the silence of the night. Nothing demands your attention. Nothing awaits resolution. The universe, for now, has given you time off. You wake up gently, not as if startled, but as if floating on the surface of a warm dream. The temple is empty now, but you don't feel afraid. On the contrary, there's a comforting calm in the air, as if silence had learned to cradle you. You get up slowly, still tasting the cocoa on your lips, and walk to the exit. Outside, the sky is tinged with amber hues, as if the sunset had decided to linger a little longer, just for your pleasure. And then you see something curious. A small procession coming towards you. People of all ages walk slowly, almost in slow motion, carrying what look like pillows, blankets, and hammocks. A man carries a huge cushion as if it were an Olympic trophy. Another woman drags a mat with all the pride in the world. Where are they going? You follow the flow and discover that on this specific day, the calm. The festival is organized by a small group of priests known as the Children of the Mist. They don't preach. They just lie down, literally. They demonstrate the sacred through inertia. One of the oldest priestesses is called the Queen of Yawns, and there's a local myth that her yawn is so powerful it once made a jaguar fall asleep standing up. Of course, this might be an exaggeration or not. Historians still debate whether these priests truly existed or if they are merely a cultural satire of the hyperactivity of the warrior elite. But you begin to understand that in this universe, the line between the sacred and the sarcastic is delightfully thin. You settle down with the group. A young apprentice of the Children of the Mist offers you a spoonful of a warm paste made of corn and honey. He says, "It's nap food, no need to chew." You accept. It melts on your tongue as if made of clouds. Moment by moment, you realize how these people understood that slowness was not laziness. It was an art, an act of resistance, a way of honoring what lives within the body when it's not rushing to meet deadlines or fleeing threats. Because a still body reveals things that only silence can translate. And here's a strange curiosity. In some more remote Aztec villages, the days dedicated to rest did not even allow dogs to run. Yes, dogs were tied on long leashes just to ensure that even they took it easy. Why? They say if even your dog is anxious, you need to rethink your life. You look around. A group of children plays at seeing who can lie still the longest. A woman wins the prize for the deepest nap and receives a flower gently placed behind her ear. Unity celebrates the festival of slow delight, an almost secret ritual dedicated to the sacred gift of doing nothing with mastery. Unlike Nemontemi, which has an aura of respectful silence, this festival is more joyful, though still absolutely relaxed. It doesn't revolve around parties, music, or dancing, because celebrating is understood as honoring the body and time. And how is this honored? By sleeping, eating slowly, and absolutely avoiding any kind of productivity. Yes, you are at a celebration where snoring in public is a sign of respect for the gods. Punished dreams and the philosophy of pause, an elder tells how in ancient times there were those who tried to circumvent these sacred days to continue working, and those people ended up dreaming for weeks on end, trapped in the world of dreams as punishment. Again, it's hard to know if this was a belief or a very effective way to ensure collective time off. You start to think about what would happen if this kind of festival existed today, an annual event where everyone was forced to slow down. No networking, no toxic productivity, no videos that say wake up at 5 a.m. and conquer the world. Instead, you'd earn a medal for doing a good nothing. Maybe people would be less tired, or maybe they'd break on the second day and beg for a spreadsheet. We'll never know. But you're already hoping for the next festival of slow delight to be on your calendar too. The sky darkens, but soft torches illuminate the area where everyone rests. Low music, played with clay flutes, fills the environment with a rhythm so slow it seems made by sleepwalkers. And you begin to realize, this is not just any moment. It's a philosophical response to life's excessive speed, an ancestral reminder that perhaps, just perhaps, living is not the same as rushing. You lie down again, this time on a soft mat. Beside you, an old man yawns loudly and smiles. "That was my most beautiful yawn of the year," he says with the same satisfaction as someone who has just finished a marathon. You laugh. And that's it. The laughter, the warmth, the pause. Nothing else matters now, because sometimes the universe doesn't need your haste. You wake to the soft light of dawn filtering through the leaves. It's not a light that pushes you out of sleep, but rather one that seems to whisper, "Stay a little longer." The festival of slow delight isn't over yet. In fact, you realize it doesn't have a clear end. People just gradually return to their normal pace, like a river that finds its current again after forming a lake. As you stretch, a young woman with her face painted in blue spirals approaches and says that today is the day of Tepealotl, the lord of the echo and mountains. The deity with the unpronounceable name, let's be honest, you'll call him TP until the end of the trip, is not only the master of distant thunder, but also of the silence between sounds. And as the children of the mist love to remind, the echo only arises after a pause. You follow the young woman to a circle of stones in the middle of the forest. There, other festival participants gather to listen to absolutely nothing. Yes, it's a ritual of deep listening. You sit in silence. Time passes and more time. And when the wind finally passes through the trees, producing a subtle sound, everyone smiles. This is the sacred echo, the sound you don't control, but which responds. And here's a curious fact. The Aztecs truly believed that the echo was the voice of the gods repeating only what was worth saying. So, be careful what you shout out there. Meanwhile, an old priest approaches you and hands you a small shell. He says it carries the echoes of past generations. You hold it to your ear and hear nothing. But somehow it's the kind of nothing that fills you, like when you meet a friend and don't need to say anything, just be together. At this moment you wonder if you're getting too mystical, but then you remember you're in a place where laziness has become a ritual and napping a prize. You decide to surrender after all. Modern life offers many things, but it rarely offers you a shell full of sacred silences. The group begins to walk, slowly to a clearing where the parade of immobility will be held. That's right, a parade where no one can move too quickly. Participants walk so slowly that even a middle-aged turtle would seem rushed. One of the most revered figures is an old woman who, according to local tradition, took 2 hours to cross the entire temple without spilling a single drop of the tea she was holding, a living legend. Historians still debate whether this practice had a true ritualistic purpose, or if it was a clever way to create social cohesion between the elderly and the very young, allowing everyone to participate equally in a ceremony. But looking now at the serene faces around you, you suspect that even if it started as a joke, it ended up becoming true. You participate in the parade, slow steps, deep breaths. A mosquito lands on your arm and, out of respect for the sacred rhythm, you don't swat it away. It also deserves to live the moment, you think, though you then slightly regret your generosity. At the end of the procession, there is an altar, decorated with quetzal feathers, sleepy flowers, and small polished obsidian pieces. You place the shell there, a symbolic gesture, but one that makes you feel part of something that began long before you, and that hopefully will continue long after. Later, during the collective siesta, everyone gathers in a large, embracing shadow. Someone sings a melody so soft it seems to have been made for sleep, like a silent flute. The priests taught that on this day, language was made of gentle stretches and rhythmic yawns. You see a group dancing in slow motion, and by dancing, understand, swaying back and forth as if trying to get out of bed without actually wanting to. You get into the groove and strangely feel that this connects you to something greater, as if the universe also had its days of indisposition. There is also a special drink, the silent chocolatl. Unlike bitter ceremonial drinks, this version was sweet, warm, served in shells. The secret was to drink it slowly, with eyes closed, listening only to the sound of your own stomach sighing. And then, like in a good episode of a poetic budget series, the day ends with a listening ceremony. The elders sit in the center of the village and tell stories, but they don't tell them with words, only with slow gestures, touches on the ground, sighs. And everyone, including you, understands. A child rests their head on your arm. An old man smiles without showing his teeth. A dog sleeps at your feet. And you finally learn. Sometimes the body needs to stop completely to remember that it is still alive. You slowly open your eyes to the faint glow of a morning that seems to ask for, "Come." The day of the soft body is over, but on the Aztec calendar you realize that the next day also has a curious reputation, the day of deep laziness. Prepare for a ritual that goes beyond simple rest. Here the concept is almost philosophical. Iti is an invitation to embrace slowness, not only of the body, but of the mind. On this day, the Aztecs believed that laziness was a sacred force, not a defect or a weakness, but an essential pause in the great dance of the cosmos. The word they used to describe this time translated to something like conscious withdrawal. You find yourself enveloped in a cloak of silence that weighs more than any stone, yet is welcoming, almost like being pulled into a warm cocoon. In the houses, people avoided making noise, especially footsteps. Walking was forbidden for some. The sound of feet on the ground could disrupt the flow of resting energy. Some historians still debate whether this prohibition extended to getting out of bed, or if slow movements were enough to satisfy the tradition. Sit, or rather, let your body settle, onto a cotton cushion stuffed with lavender, cedar, and something resembling cinnamon. The aroma is so gentle, it almost whispers ancient stories directly into your nose. It's as if you can hear the whispers of ancestors telling you not to rush anything today. Laziness here is ritualized with a special tea made with passion flower, blossoms, and a secret touch of honey. They say the honey had to be harvested at a certain time of year when the bees were calmer. A detail that makes you imagine these tiny insects in miniature monk robes. A ridiculous thought that brings a smile. As you savor the tea, you notice that time begins to stretch. You don't just stop, you seem to exist in a suspended bubble. If someone passed by you, they might swear you were frozen in time, and perhaps you are. Because the Aztecs, in their festivals, created this illusion with ceramics and masks to symbolize eternal rest. You then recall a curious fact. The calendar had a special symbol for this day called the sleepy snail. It was a giant snail with half-closed eyes, slowly carrying its shell on the spiral of time. You try to imagine a gigantic snail moving so slowly that even laziness seemed fast next to it. In academic debates, many still try to understand if the day of deep laziness was a genuine religious practice or a kind of ritualized satire, a way for priests to warn against overwork or exhaustion. This gives it a funny tone for you. Did they also have memes back then? You decide to surrender to this moment, aware that laziness can be a tool for healing. Suddenly, the world seems quieter, less urgent. The rhythm of your breathing slows, and you realize that the greatest gift of the day is the permission to simply be, without haste, without demands. You hear a soft song in the distance, a leisurely melody that seems to cradle the earth itself. It is the song of slow time, a tune the ancients sang to synchronize the heart with the pulse of nature. A curious fact. They say the song changed depending on the wind and the movement of the clouds, like a natural radio tuned to the sky's frequency. At the end of the day, you feel refreshed, despite the slowness, and begin to understand something that perhaps only the Aztec calendar could teach. That amidst the frantic movement of the world, there are days made for disconnecting, for allowing yourself a deep and meaningful breath. You close your eyes and let serenity envelop you, knowing that tomorrow, when the sun rises, it will bring a new rhythm to your body and mind. You awaken with the gentle remembrance of the day of deep laziness still lingering in the air when you realize that the Aztec calendar holds a surprise for you, the day of slow inspiration. No, it's not ironic. It's a pause for creativity, but at its calmest, almost lazy pace. On this day, you are invited to let ideas sprout unhurriedly, like a seed germinating in wet earth, without forcing growth, without anxiety. It is a sacred moment for the mind, an invitation to appreciate the slowness of thought. You settle into a comfortable spot, perhaps near a window that lets in the golden light of the setting sun. The environment is decorated with images of jaguars and eagles, animals that in Aztec mythology represent power and vision, but today you see them in a Zen version, as if they were lying in a hammock, drinking a calming tea. Historians still debate whether the day of slow inspiration had any direct connection to the artistic rituals of the Aztec people, or if it was a later creation to symbolize the importance of mental rest in creativity. You observe that Aztec artists used a special pigment called cochineal for their paintings, a vibrant red made from crushed insects. A somewhat cruel curiosity, you think, but the beauty of the result compensates for the sacrifice. After all, art isn't born easily. During the day of slow inspiration, temples were transformed into impromptu studios. People gathered to hear stories, exchange ideas, and create decorative objects without haste, almost in a meditative state. Instead of pressuring the mind, priests encourage the tranquil observation of nature. You try to draw something, perhaps a flower or an ancient symbol, and discover that by slowing down, even your stroke improves. You even risk an internal joke. Laziness is the godmother of creativity. How embarrassing to admit that. The sounds, around are gentle. The rustling of leaves, the sparse singing of birds, the faint buzzing of a bee, which, by the way, is a symbol of hard work, but today also seems to be in snooze mode. In academic debate, the controversy revolves around the real influence of this day on Aztec cultural production. Some suggest that this pause was essential to prevent mental and physical exhaustion, while others believe it could have been a moment to foster philosophical and spiritual reflection. You close your eyes for a moment and realize how valuable this moment of pause is. Even the universe seems to breathe with you, as if slowness were a secret ingredient for creative magic. And so, between a yawn and a somewhat crooked sketch, you understand that you don't always have to chase inspiration. Sometimes it comes when you least expect it, especially when you allow yourself to simply be. You still feel the tranquil echo of the day of slow inspiration when the Aztec calendar guides you to what they call the day of conspiratorial rest. Sounds strange, doesn't it? Conspiratorial rest sounds like a plot to oversleep. But here the meaning is deeper, a day to rest the mind and quietly plan the next steps. On this day, you realize that rest is not just physical, it's also strategic. The ancient Aztecs knew that big decisions needed moments of pause to mature. It's as if laziness were an ally in the art of patience and reflection. You imagine yourself sitting on a rock, observing the horizon without haste, while the warm wind sways the leaves of a sacred tree. A sense of calm envelops you, and you feel that even the universe is conspiring for you to slow down and think. A peculiar curiosity. They say that on this day, priests used a special type of smoke made of herbs to aid in meditation and contemplation. The herb, so aromatic, spread through the villages, making even the most agitated warriors relax, at least for a few hours. Historians still debate whether conspiratorial rest had any practical function in Aztec politics, or if it was a symbolic rite to strengthen the spirit before great battles or decisions. You imagine nobles in their ceremonial robes discreetly napping while devising plans. As you surrender to this atmosphere, you feel your mind slow down, but it doesn't stop working. Thoughts become clearer, more organized. You even laugh at yourself, imagining an Aztec leader yawning during an important meeting with one foot on a pillow. On this day, the sounds around are almost sacred. The rustling of leaves, the whispering of the wind, and the distant call of a quetzal, a bird that, according to mythology, carries the energy of the gods. It's an invitation to listen to silence, that silent partner of rest and reflection. You realize that despite seeming like laziness, rest here is a form of power. The pause creates space for creativity, for strategy, for inner growth. It's as if laziness itself were a vital force that should be respected and cultivated. As the day ends, you feel lightheaded, calm at heart, and certain that conscious rest is a rare and precious gift. After all, even the greatest empires needed this time to dream and plan. You settle into your pillow, letting the serenity of this day accompany you into sleep. Tomorrow, the cycle continues. But for now, it's time to celebrate the subtle power of pause. You've barely surrendered to the Rest of the day of conspiratorial rest, when the Aztec calendar leads you to what they call the day of the sacred yawn. Sounds funny, right? An entire day dedicated to yawning, as if it were a ritual of connection with the gods of relaxation. And in a way, it is. You are in an open temple, with tall columns carved from stone that reflect the warm morning sun. The air is heavy with the aroma of burning copal, the incense the Aztecs used to purify and connect the earthly world to the divine. All this while the people around you yawn in chorus, like a lazy orchestra. Historians still debate whether the day of the sacred yawn truly existed or if it is a poetic invention of later chroniclers trying to make sense of the importance of pause. After all, yawning is contagious and inevitable, like that urge to nap after lunch, you know. A curiosity you find almost funny. The Aztecs believed that yawning helped release bad spirits from the body. In other words, it wasn't just a sign of sleep, but an internal exorcism that renewed energy. So lazy yawning is a spiritual cleansing. Who knew? You imagine yourself in the middle of that crowd, yawning discreetly, or perhaps not so discreetly, trying not to laugh at the situation. If someone called me lazy today, I'd show them my sacred yawn, you think. The temple reverberates with soft sounds, the rustling of leaves, the distant singing of birds, and of course the sound of yawns spreading like waves. Even the imaginary jaguar mascot in your mind seems to be yawning beside you, almost asking to join the party. On this day, laziness takes on a divine touch, and you allow yourself to enter this slow, almost meditative rhythm, where time slows down and the body finds its own pace. You know that tomorrow you'll have plenty of energy, but today, yawning is king. You close your eyes and let the yawn carry you, feeling as if you are cleansing not only your body, but also your soul. Who needs coffee when you have a sacred yawn like this? You are still immersed in the tranquil atmosphere of the day of the sacred yawn when the Aztec calendar takes you to the intriguing day of the hammock and the slow embrace. Imagine a day dedicated not only to laziness, but to coziness, that art of curling up in a hammock and simply letting time pass, as if it were in no hurry at all. You find yourself lying in a hammock suspended between two leafy trees, the fabric molding to your body as a gentle breeze makes the hammock sway softly. The sound of the wind playing with the leaves creates a calm soundtrack, almost like a whisper of comfort. The Aztecs valued this moment so much that they believed the hammock was a gift from the gods to protect the body and soul, helping to conserve energy for future challenges. In fact, the hammock was so essential that even nobles and warriors used it, not only for rest, but for meditation. Historians still debate whether the use of the hammock was exclusively for rest, or if it also had deep spiritual connotations related to dreams and the world of the dead. You imagine that in any case, it was a perfect excuse for a prolonged nap, a curiosity to warm up this lazy hammock. The fabric was made of locally grown cotton, and the Aztecs used techniques that today we would call slow fashion. They planted, harvested, and wove with patience, respecting the rhythm of nature. Nothing rushed to make a good hammock. As you sway slowly, you feel your body relax and your mind slow down. You smile, remembering that time you tried to rest in a hammock and almost fell out because you were too distracted. Hammocks are for those who have balance and just the right amount of laziness, you think. Around you, the air is filled with the sweet aroma of flowers and warm earth, and the distant sound of a tribal drum echoes, setting a slow rhythm that matches the swaying of the hammock. Even the sun seems to move more slowly, as if respecting this moment of sacred pause. You realize that this day of the hammock and the slow embrace is a celebration of the time you dedicate to yourself without haste, without guilt. It is a reminder that sometimes the greatest courage lies in simply letting the body and mind rest. And so, lulled by the hammock and the cozy silence, you surrender to a lazy nap, letting the world spin slowly around you while time, for an instant, seems to stop. You slowly rise from the hammock, still feeling the gentle sway in your body, when the Aztec calendar takes you to the so-called day of the warm bath and justified laziness. Yes, an entire day dedicated to calmly taking care of yourself, enveloped in warm water and aromas that seem to whisper, "Relax, you deserve it." You imagine yourself in an improvised stone bathtub, carved in the center of a sacred garden, with steam slowly rising and the tranquil sound of running water filling the space. All around, medicinal plants and flowers exhale a sweet and calming perfume, while the sun caresses your skin. The Aztecs, despite their reputation as warriors and conquerors, had a special care for hygiene and health, using ritual baths not only for physical cleansing, but for spiritual purification. They believed that warm water helped release toxins from the body and mind, promoting internal balance. A peculiar curiosity. Some historical sources mention that these baths were accompanied by soft music and chants, almost like a celestial spa session. You even catch yourself imagining the priests with harmonious voices, perhaps slightly off-key just to relieve tension. Historians still debate whether these bathing rituals also had an important social function, serving to strengthen community bonds among people who gathered for these moments of collective care. After all, relaxing together can also be an art. As you let the warm water envelop your muscles, you feel the weight of the day slowly dissolve. Your mind becomes a calm lake, reflecting only what truly matters. You let out a deep sigh and think, why don't we have more days like this in our modern schedule, huh? The sound of bubbling water and the aroma of plants create an atmosphere that makes you want to prolong this moment indefinitely. Even the imaginary jaguar in your thoughts seems to want to plunge into this peaceful bath. On this day of the warm bath and justified laziness, you learn that taking care of yourself is not a luxury, but a sacred necessity, and that laziness, when used for restoration, becomes an act of self-love. You close your eyes and let the warm water wash away not only your body but all your worries, preparing for what comes next with the tranquility of someone who knows that rest is part of the journey. You are almost at the end of this journey, through the Aztec calendar, and now comes the moment of the day of the divine siesta and honored laziness. A day that, if it were today, perhaps everyone would ask for time off from work. Because here the siesta is not just a nap. It is a sacred ritual that renews body and soul. You find yourself lying under a generous shade, perhaps that of a fig tree or a sacred tree that seems to embrace you with its branches, offering a cool and cozy shade. The day's heat is present but mild, a perfect invitation to close your eyes and let time slowly drift away. The Aztecs believed that the siesta was fundamental for maintaining balance between the spiritual and earthly worlds. It was a moment when energies aligned and messages from the gods could be received with greater clarity in dreams. Historians still debate whether this custom influenced other cultures that today value rest after lunch. A curiosity that makes you smile. They say that for some nobles, the siesta was accompanied by soft music played with string instruments, while servants ensured that nothing interrupted this sacred moment. Chic laziness, you think? You feel the weight of your eyelids, your body sinking into the softness of the ground covered with dry leaves and flowers. The distant sound of birds and the faint buzzing of insects complete this natural soundtrack that cradles your sleep. As you rest, you realize that this pause is more than physical rest. It is a deep connection with the very essence of life, a chance to hear the silence between the noises of the world. You allow yourself to dream, knowing that when you wake up, you will be renewed, ready to continue your journey with energy and serenity. And so, on this day of the divine siesta and honored laziness, you learn that laziness has its sacred and necessary place, that resting is an act of courage and wisdom, that life gains rhythm and harmony when we make space for pause. You slowly open your eyes, feeling lighter, and think with a smile. Perhaps, just perhaps, the Aztecs understood something we are still trying to learn. With this reflection, you get up, ready to move forward, carrying with you the peace of these days. Dedicated to rest, you now find yourself walking along the slow path of time, arriving at the day of vague dreams and inspiring laziness. Imagine that laziness here is not an absence of action, but a creative pause where daydreaming is allowed and even encouraged. You are sitting on an imaginary cliff, looking out at the horizon where the sky blends with the blue of the sacred lake. The breeze touches your face, bringing with it the scent of pine cones and wet earth. Your thoughts begin to float, wandering unhurriedly like leaves dancing in the wind. The Aztecs had a complex relationship with the world of dreams. For them, this was a realm where gods and ancestors could communicate with the living. Historians still debate whether lucid dreaming practices already existed at that time, or if they were merely symbolic interpretations of oniric events. A fascinating curiosity. Reports indicate that priests sometimes induced dreams through chants and herbs in a kind of guided journey to find answers to tribal problems. You imagine a ritual that's a bit like a mystical spa, complete with incense and mesmerizing sounds. You allow yourself to remain in this state of creative drowsiness, where ideas form like clouds and dissipate with the same ease. This laziness, far from being useless, is a fertile moment for the mind, where rest and inspiration intertwine. As you remain there, you realize that inspiring laziness is an invitation to slow down and let answers appear in their own time. You remember the saying, "Less is more," and smile, thinking of how many times you tried to rush everything and ended up doing nothing right. The sound of the wind, the scent of nature, and the silence of the moment create a safe space for this surrender. And so, on this day dedicated to daydreaming, you find a new kind of productivity, one that arises from rest and tranquility. You slowly get up, feeling lightheaded, light-souled, ready to continue your journey with a more open mind and a calm heart. You now enter the day of sacred slowness and contemplative laziness, a day that in the Aztec calendar was dedicated to cultivating patience and deep reflection. Imagine yourself sitting in an open space under a large tree whose branches form a tranquil canopy, filtering the sunlight into soft patterns on your skin. Here, laziness is not just about resting, but about slowing down life's frantic pace to observe the world with more attentive eyes. You feel the gentle breeze, hear the distant song of a bird, and feel the rough texture of the leaves beneath your fingers. Every detail is an invitation to full presence. The Aztecs valued contemplation as a form of wisdom. Historians still debate to what extent these moments were used for spiritual meditation or for a simple mental pause between daily obligations. Perhaps deep down, it was a bit of both. A surprising curiosity. They say that some Aztec leaders reserved these hours to listen to elders and reflect on important decisions, in a kind of political laziness that ensured more considered decisions, something that perhaps is lacking in our rushed modern days. You allow yourself to feel the slowness without guilt, realizing how time slows down and each thought gains space to blossom. Here, laziness is a gesture of self-love, a recognition that you deserve this moment of calm. As you observe the dance of the leaves in the wind, you realize that the mind, when in contemplative rest, can discover unexpected solutions and clarify doubts that seemed insurmountable. That problem that kept you awake at night might be resolved here, in the serenity of slowness. You feel the weight of the world a little lighter and realize that sometimes the best way to move forward is to simply stop and contemplate. It is a lesson that, though ancient, still has much to teach. With a tranquil sigh, you get up, feeling renewed energy and a calmer spirit, ready for the last step of this Aztec journey. You now arrive at the last day of your journey through the Aztec calendar, a day that seems to envelop the entire universe in a deep and serene calm. It is the day of final serenity and blessed laziness, a sacred moment where rest is not only allowed but celebrated as a divine gift, a gift for the body, mind, and soul. Imagine yourself in a wide open field at dusk, where the sky is a spectacle of colors you've probably only seen in Instagram filters. Burnt orange, soft pink, and almost magical purple. The sunlight slowly bids farewell, almost as if it's giving you a silent, comforting hug. You feel the soft grass beneath your body, like a natural mattress, and the fresh air entering your lungs brings the sensation of an embrace from nature itself. The leaves around you whisper ancient stories, cradling your spirit with soft, rhythmic sounds that seem to compose a song just for you. Everything conspires for you to surrender to the moment, for your mind to slow down, and for your body to simply be. On this day, the Aztecs did not view laziness as weakness. Quite the contrary, it was an act of reverence and care, an acknowledgement of the importance of balance between action and rest. Resting was as essential as warring or working in the fields. Historians still debate whether this day was marked by specific rituals or if it was a time reserved for family gatherings and community celebrations. But everyone agrees that it was a time to honor the pause, to allow energy to flow naturally. And here's a curiosity you might not expect. Ancient accounts suggest that Aztec families gathered on this day to tell stories, sing songs, and laugh, like a true holiday. Unlike what you might imagine, this laziness was not about empty idleness, but a sacred space for social and emotional connection. It's as if, on that day, laziness transformed into a bond of unity, strengthening human ties while the body rested. You feel this subtle energy as you watch the sky change colors. The temperature slowly drops, bringing a comfortable feeling, almost like an invisible blanket that envelops you and everything around you. The air is permeated with an earthy smell, mixed with the delicate scent of night-blooming flowers that begin to open, inviting the night to approach. Your breathing becomes slow, rhythmic, and each inhale seems to fill your being with a deep tranquility, while each exhale releases any tension you unknowingly carried. You allow yourself to close your eyes for a moment, and as you do, you feel a lightness that is almost magical. It's as if you are floating in a space where time does not exist, where the only thing that matters is this feeling of peace and fullness. Remember that the Aztecs had an intimate relationship with natural cycles, the sun, the moon, the seasons. Historians still debate whether the day of final serenity was synchronized with specific celestial events, perhaps the longest sunset of the year, or a particular phase of the moon that represented rebirth and rest. What matters is that they knew the importance of aligning with these rhythms, respecting the body and mind. As you let yourself be carried away by this atmosphere, you realize that laziness, far from being a burden, is a gift to recharge your strength. Your body feels lighter, your mind clearer, and your heart beats to a calm rhythm that seems to converse with the pulse of the universe. Every muscle relaxes, every thought finds its place, and you feel profound gratitude for this sacred pause. At this moment, imagine yourself participating in one of these ancient celebrations, sitting in a circle with your loved ones. You share stories that make time seem to stop, sing songs that speak of courage and love, and laugh together, nourishing a connection that is as vital as the air you breathe. This unity is a powerful reminder that laziness can also be a time of communion, a space for love to grow. You realize that this day is not just for resting the body, but for nourishing the soul. That final serenity is, in fact, a state where you find yourself without haste, without pressure, just being. You slowly open your eyes, feeling a peace you never thought possible to achieve so easily. The sun has already disappeared below the horizon, and the night announces itself with its timid stars, like small, comforting lights in the vast, dark sky. You feel ready to continue your journey, knowing that this serenity is within you, ready to be accessed whenever you need it. And when you finally rise from that imaginary field, you carry with you the certainty that rest is a strength, an act of self-love, and a blessing that deserves to be celebrated. You understand that sometimes the greatest courage is knowing when to stop, slow down, and surrender to the moment. Now take a deep breath once more. Feel your body comfortable wherever you are. Allow this calm to spread through you, filling every corner with soft light and tranquil warmth. Let this sensation carry you far away, to where dreams begin, lulling you into a sweet, deep, and restorative sleep. You made this journey calmly and attentively, and you deserve all the rest in the world. May your dreams be serene, and may you awaken renewed, with a light mind and a calm heart for the new day to come.